Yeah, yeah. Now you can leave your car behind to get away from the usual grind. A sweet, cool ride with your peers. Friends you're sure to find.
There's a subtle difference, right? It's not very pronounced. So you could use one word or the other, right? Alternatively, so generally it's assumed that carpooling, ride sharing are one and the same thing.
Okay.
Just like people would also assume that ride hailing companies, some of them are popular around now, same thing as ride sharing. So the words are used interchangeably, but there are subtle differences.
Okay.
Now, carpooling, like the word depicts, if you separate the two keywords, is pulling of cars, right? So you would know there are situations where, in the traditional sense, where you're traveling and you have two cars and you park it and you're going to go out of the country, and then someone, your friend, you say, look, you don't have a car, why don't you use my car?
Okay.
Now, if that is done at scale, right, whereby a couple of people across an area, a distinct area, people that are going in the same direction, says, look, we all go from, let's say, here where we are at Giddingby, we go to VI every day.
Okay.
We have, individually, we have our cars. Why don't we pool our cars, whereby today I can ride with you?
Okay.
It's a mix, but generally today I ride with you and we go, so I save fuel. Tomorrow, you ride with me, you save fuel.
Okay.
Or we all ride with you and we pay to subsidize
For
fuel.
Okay.
Or we say, look, if all of us have different cars, why don't we find a way of rotating it? Now, remember, traditionally also in the history of Lagos State, the government had to do some form of enhanced or enforced carpooling, whereby they say odd number,
even number.
Exactly. So what then happened is, if I had a neighbor who has a car that is even numbered, it's a no-brainer to tell him, look, dude, tomorrow, why don't you ride with your car since I have an even number?
Right.
The day after you have an odd number, we go with yours. Now, significantly ameliorate the problem we have with traffic in Lagos. It is not the silver bullet to all the problems we have with Lagos. Of course, I mean, the governor has basically come up with a lot of plans how you're going to solve traffic, but considerably. No matter the infrastructure we put in place to do with fixing the bad roads, the point is Lagos have a particular number of kilometers of road. Lagos have a definite size as a state. There are so many cars that the present road that we have today can fix. There's so much based on budget constraints. There's so many roads that the governor can put in place per time. Now, the only solution we can really have today would be to take cars off the road, which the government would find it very difficult to do because it would extend towards my right or your right. But if people could come socially together and agree to basically use their car more sustainably, which can only be done by carpooling, then you would see the result of what carpooling could do. When it has to do with societies are basically underpinned by culture. And culture is strong. Things we see in Lagos. Lagos is echo for show.
True.
We like to show. It's what makes Lagos distinctive. It's what makes Lagos a bustling city that it is. It's what attracts people to Lagos. Now, that is also exhibited by the tendency to want to show that, look, I've arrived. If I can afford a car, I buy a car. But then it is most times is it's based on necessity. Not everybody buys a car because they want to. Not everybody likes staying in traffic 4 hours. But the point is, because of the chaotic nature of public transportation, public mass transit in Lagos, if you can afford to buy a car, you buy a car because you just want a little bit of peace, a little bit of organization. You want a little bit of predictability. If it's raining and I step out and I have to be at work at 7, and I step out, do I want to stand at the bus stop waiting for a bus I'm not sure is coming? So I buy my car because it makes basically I can be predictable for my work my business, for family, and all that things I want to do, socials and church and mosque and all that. Now, it's something that we will do based on prestige issues, based on necessity issues. It must have people who buy cars. So that is where, when people suggest that, look, you could reduce traffic by implementing the odd number, it won't work, because people will find a way to go around it. Things like having 2 number plate, things like, a lot of things could happen, or switch one to the other, from one car to the other. These things could happen. The easiest way to solve a social problem is to get the people in the society to come together in very, very agreeable manner to say, look, we have a problem, let's solve it. And I think the easiest way is carpooling. And there are many ways to make carpooling viable, right? Carpooling as a concept has a lot of problems. Now, that carpooling is a little bit distinctive from ride sharing. But put together, sharing rides and pooling cars, it could solve a lot of problems. But you see, the society represented by the government and even the citizens themselves need to come together with a little bit of incentive from the government, incentive from private sector, to make it attractive to not put my car on the road if I have a neighbor, I have a friend who goes in the same direction with me. Of course, there are obvious problems, right? I guess, which we're going to talk about
definitely.
on the show. I think one of the biggest, we're not very big on environmental issues. I think the major environmental issues that is talked about in Nigeria is oil spill, right? But oil spill is big because when it happens, it's very noticeable. But then the real problem of environmental degradation is the things you don't notice. The tree that is caught in a Bokoda, nobody noticed, but it's done at scale. Leads to billions of trees being cut almost every second across the world. The little tons of carbon monoxide that is released into the environment, which, if done at scale, like it's happening in Lagos today, would lead to a lot of health challenges going down the road. Now, we're not recognizing it because Lagos is a bustling city where, city that never sleeps, people just go about their business. But you see, a lot of times, we don't take things seriously until it becomes an epidemic. All right. So environmental issue is a big problem. It's actually one of the biggest problems, right? The one about fuel is something that people feel the pinch every day because they have to pay money. Environmental problems are there. The impact on the roads, which now affects the government as a budgetary allocation and the needs to be able to use money more judiciously. There are issues to do with health. Significantly in Lagos today, the biggest problem that people can feel is health. Then, on an economic scale, is manpower loss. People spend an insane amount of hours in traffic every day. Years ago, we used to talk about 3 hours. Now we're talking about 4, 5, sometimes 6 hours. Especially during rainy season, when it just gets atrocious that you can spend in traffic some crazy, and then the damages to businesses. And all these things has to do with too many people being on the road at the same time. Now, there are other subtle issues, but the major one that I think we need to take, we as a people need to take up front is the environmental issues and the health issues. I think a medical doctor will probably do more about that. It's really enormous. Yes, okay. Carpooling, ride sharing, there's really no distinct carpooling service that, apart from the rental companies, which themselves are some form of carpooling, but there's really no distinct digital carpooling service over here in Nigeria, in Lagos. There's been ride sharing companies on that scale. Now, ride sharing has been done traditionally for a long time. I mean, you see people on the road, it's called hitchhiking. People stand on the road and you pick them. Sometimes it's called, there's a local word for it, kabu-kabu, right? Which the car owners don't like. Nobody likes this car being called the kabu-kabu.
Yeah, but then there's a bit of finesse to them now.
Exactly. You drive along the road, you stop and you say, oh, are you going to VI? And a couple of guys enter. Oh, people do it because probably they need some few bucks here and there. But as an organized digital business, which is, I mean, you really can only do ride sharing at scale using digital technology, smartphones and what we have today. There's been a couple that have tried it.
Okay.
They've not been very successful.
Right.
And there's one that was very popular a couple of years ago, and for almost 2 years was very much in everybody's attention, and they failed. They pulled out of the market. Now they had a couple of problems. They didn't announce what specific problems they had.
Where? Okay.
But based on a little bit of, if you look at it, it could be having to do with security. Security could be one of the big problems.
Issues.
One of the big problems could be repeat business. The fact that they connect one person, and for the next time the two people connect to themselves, and then
then they just sideline.
Exactly.
Okay.
They don't book with the service anymore. So I mean, that does not make the business successful. So the business sustainable. So the business has to shut down. But there are also issues to do with prestige and the social connections between the rider and the driver. Okay. If not managed properly in a very customer-centric manner, this could lead to people not repeating the business, because you're talking about moving into someone's space. This is a private car, right? It's not like the ride-hailing service that we know. It's a private car. And so it's like someone allowing you to come into his space. That connection needs to be managed more business, let's say more customer-centric way. So those are some of the problems. But ride sharing company, a company that wants to go into the sort of carpooling we are talking about, security would be upfront, number one. Right. And there are lots of ways to achieve that.
Okay.
Yes. You know, when we started the show, you talked about people like they buy cars because when they want to show. So one of the motivations of buying a car is prestige.
Right.
Now, if someone has a car and he's bought it because he wants to show some form of prestige, now the person needs to maintain that status. So when that service is ruled to say, okay, look, you need to share your car, or if you want to share your car, then the consideration has to take that particular factor into consideration. So to say, look, if Mr. A would share his car, how do you make it comfortable for him to share a car and be happy to share his car? What are the motivations? What are those things that you need to do? What are the incentives you need to put in place to ensure that he not only shares his car, he is happy to share it.
Okay.
He is happy to testify about it, and he's happy to do it again repeatedly.
Right.
Now, if these things are considered and achieved, then the patronage is done over and over, and that becomes a business. Because business is when a customer is willing to pay for a service happily and do it over time. So the service provider is able to generate a revenue. Everybody is happy that is being done. The driver and the rider are happy that they are not only doing something worthwhile, they are impacting the environment, they are making their city better. Everybody is happy, and the business owner, this business provider, is also happy that he's making money.
Right.
So all this need to be put together, and but the two main constraints would be security and then the prestige issue, because the prestige issue has to do with the driver as a person having to go over his constraint, or his restraint, let's use that word, his restraint to sharing his car.
Okay.
Why security is something that affects, is an external factor that affects everybody, that even if I get over the restraint of sharing my car, but I assume that the environment is not safe, so I need to be sure whoever I'm picking, I'm safe.
Right.
Both from a point of view of physical safety, but also from an insurance perspective, that if this thing happens, what then? Does someone have my back? Right. If I'm doing this, it's a good cause and all that, but who is it that gets my back? So that's what needs to be solved. And there are many ways to do it.
All right.
Disadvantages is almost nil, right? It's almost nil, because what you see, and it's not only in transport, in almost every part of our lives, the middle class buys a lot of stuff, right? And most of these things are used periodically.
Okay.
A lot of people drive, have their cars, they drive it up to in the morning. They work, let's say they work in a bank, they park at 8 o'clock. That car is parked in the sun till 5. That's not a very, very good use of the car. Right. But of course, the person that parked the car needs to own a car. He needs to come out and see a car to ride. He's not going to come out and wait for somebody. But it's not a very efficient use of that resource. Called a car.
Right.
The resource called a car is meant to take people around. It's built to do that. That car, if it's driving around for 5, so the idea now would be, how do we take that car and optimize its use?
Okay.
Now, is it possible that that person that sits in the office working, that car could move around
without the
make
person.
money for the person?
Right.
So if you look at it from that viewpoint, it's a massive business opportunity. It's in the billions of dollars. Now, let's use Lagos as an example from a business perspective. Lagos is a city of about 22, 23 million people now. I think it probably is more. So this is a little bit crazy. You have about 6 to 9 million people moving around Lagos every day. Commuters, people going around in different modes of transport. But about 90% of these are on the road. Less than 10% use the waterways. Lagos is about 22% wetlands, water. Now the rest of Lagos, about 30-something thousand square kilometers, is road. But in that same Lagos, we have, because Lagos is interspersed by creeks, so we have, there's the limit to which we can build all kinds of road, because at every point in time when you want to go across Lagos, you have to cross it. Everybody has to get on a bridge. So to a large extent, there will be some form of traffic. The major thing is to reduce the cars. Now, people sharing cars, no disadvantage. If you can resolve the issue of security, the issue of prestige. And I think as of 15 years ago, probably would not be possible. But with digital technology today, with smartphone in the hands of everybody, it is very possible. And that's what we're trying to do. And lots of people are trying to do it. The revolution have started with ride hailing. It's moving into ride sharing, social riding, which is what we do, and it's going to get even better. Now, what is needed is the enabling environment to be put in place so that people that would choose to go into that providing those services would be more comfortable from a business perspective. Because nobody does anything business if he's not sure that his investment will be protected.
Right.
So that said, if you look at the fact that about 6 to 9 million people go around Lagos every day, and there's plus minus, I think, more than 1 million private cars in Lagos. Now, each of those private cars have an average of 2 people occupancy every time they are driving, which means on an average car, which is a sedan, you have like 3-4 seats available.
At the back.
So if you take that there's 1 million cars, average of 3 to 4 seats, so you have about 3 to 4 million seats available that can be shared. Now, the ideal thing would be the ways whereby we can connect those empty seats to the almost 9 million commuters going around Lagos for those that choose to ride. If that happens, that's a massive business opportunity, and that is what we're trying to achieve. But I think achieving it would basically lessen the number of cars. If people find out that this thing can be done very effectively, a lot of people would drop their car and choose to drive with other people. It happened some years ago with BRT. When BRT was launched, when it was at its peak of its efficiency, a lot of people dropped their car. A lot of people would park at the Jota and ride. Now, if that could have been done at scale, which I understand the present governor from the last governor to this governor is trying to basically broaden out.
Right.
If that happens the way it's envisaged, you could just imagine the number of cars that will be kept at home while people go about their happy business. Okay, so government investing directly in carpooling and in ride sharing may slightly be difficult, because remember the service providers are private individuals, and there's a trust issue with government in our environment. So if the government gets involved in asking private individuals to do that, you know the right question back. But we pay taxes. Why you want us to do this?
that? Right.
So this is something that the motivation and the incentive need to be private sector driven, because we're talking about private people doing their stuff. So the private sector driving it would be much more effective.
Right.
That's one. What government need to do is create incentives for, number one, people to try to drive that service. Government needs to also incentivize the environment by ensuring that the networks, citywide Wi-Fi, those kind of things you hear about that could make people get on the internet, because these services can only be done very effectively if it's done via digital means. So putting citywide Wi-Fi where people can get access to be able to do things and share their itineraries and their car spaces, stuff like that. Government could also do it by ensuring that, look, if you share your car, could there be some form of a tax rebate? Lots of things, because right now the government will find it difficult to get people to take their cars off their road. Right? The other things the government could do also is quicken the development of mass transit. The government is doing a very good initiative with the rail. With the
light rail.
The light rail. If that project is completed, the blue line is completed, the red line is completed, you would see lots of people would drop their car, would basically go
on the rails.
On the rails, and that could help. I mean, there are many ways this is being done and how it can be done more effectively. I think there's a service in South Africa whereby people share their cars, and basically people come in and pay for fuel. So the owner of the car is driving and says, look, the fuel is this. And
so they all contribute to buy fuel.
Yes, they contribute to buy fuel. It's not very efficient because the negotiation in between, because it may happen in South Africa because of probably their cultural uniqueness. It probably may not happen in Lagos. Lagos is far more bustling than most other cities. So it may be difficult. Probably the parking to negotiate that particular stuff may not be there. There are ways people also come together in a very congenial social contract. Say, look, I will drive today, you will drive tomorrow. So there's no exchange of money, but it's just I'm driving today, tomorrow you will drive. That in itself also has to do with some negotiations, which is a little bit difficult. We know sometimes how difficult.
You're not even sure if everybody in the car can drive. Yes, how do you do that?
It's a problem. Today, this guy could be transferred the next day, or he's sent to Abuja for a work function. He's meant to be driving, and I'm sitting at home thinking, those things can happen. Now, to make it very efficient, there have to be something in the middle that basically everybody can connect and see themselves and know. And it's something that has to be done at scale if it's to be adopted widely. So I can talk about how we do it. Basically, it's a smartphone. You set your itinerary. I'm driving from Agilingbi to VI. The itinerary is put out there. Someone else who does not have a car says, I'm going from Agilingbi to VI. They are connected. In terms of sharing the costs, the rider basically pays an amount of money, which is not done physically. It's the rider has a wallet. The money is moved from the wallet. So there's no direct discussion whereby I stop on the road and I say, are you going to VI?
Calling your passenger.
I'm trying to identify you. No, someone has done the verification of the rider, all their details from their SIM telephone registration details to their bank database. Everybody knows, we know this guy for a fact. We know the rider for a fact. I don't need to verify everybody I ride with every day. Right? Someone has verified it. So what I used to do is put my itinerary on the system, and I'm linked up with someone who is going my way.
Your way.
And then the person meets up with me and we ride the same route. The driver doesn't have to go out of his route. He's going to walk. He works in the bank. He's driving that route. He just picks people along his way.
And then
it's really what the downfall guys they do to a large extent now, but it's done more predictably and more securely.
More organized way.
Yes, at scale it will. At scale, if the trick behind it is not to focus on the riders.
Okay.
The trick here is, first of all, the riders are comfortable driving with people that own cars. Then car owners now realize that, look, why am I driving? I could join, understand, Emeka, I could join Gbenga, right? Aki could join
another friend,
Dele,
okay?
right? So if it becomes certain that the service is comfortable, it's predictable, and there's no hassle whereby I need to search for somebody, and people could stop, could actually say, look, I have a car, but I don't feel like driving. I don't want to get in that traffic.
Okay,
I'll
so
just ride with this.
I can
Now,
ride
if
with
that
this
is
person.
done at scale, you could see, our estimation is that you could see up to 20,000 cars leave the road in 2 years.
In 2 years.
In 2 years. And if that is quadrupled over time, that's a massive, the massive result will be traffic reduction across Lagos.
Across Lagos, all right.
So when I'm on a trip, I take a ride with Tripp. So when I'm on the road with Tripp. So when I'm on a trip, I take a ride with Tripp. So when I'm on the road with Tripp.